Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Superfed TV's REL Division 5 coverage. This is just the Division 5 recap, so Division 4 we're going to get to next week, and I will try and do a brief recap video this weekend for Division 4. Today I am joined by Iron Master, Chaos Sabulu, Rusty Seabutter.
Hello.
Hello.
And Trunkhead is out today, so that's why we've got these guests here. But thankfully, we've got two Division 5 coaches and one of my Division 3 counterparts and opponents who I'm playing next week, too.
It's going to be fun.
So let's go ahead and jump into Division 5.
Okay.
And taking a look at the leaderboards to start. And we're going to go basically over every single one of the teams in reverse order. We do have a couple surrender teams here, so we can ignore the last two, I believe, and then Havoc's henchman will also skip over because he dropped out. But somehow, even after dropping out, he's still not in last place. So let us start with Nurgle FTDs.
Okay. They are on the first page. Got them.
And they are team value of 1360. He definitely took Trunkhead's advice of putting his team or Discord contact information and the team motto, I think it's what it's called.
Yep.
It's nice. High Lord Salt is the name of the coach, and he's got some experience.
Yep. One thing I like is he's already getting his block in the Chaos Warriors early and just making them reliable, and getting one guard is great. And then Claw, I think it was the doubles roll, so he just wants a killer there.
Not on Nurgle, actually. That's natural access. So
natural.
He could have gotten Mighty Blow first, and there's a lot of talk about that. Mighty Blow or Claw. He is in a division, as these other coaches will test, that has a lot of AV9. So it's not necessarily a bad choice to get that Claw first. And you can see how close he is to leveling. He's only 3 SPP away. So once he gets Claw, Mighty Blow, and block, look out.
Yep. And I actually talked to him a bit about this decision as well. And that is exactly his logic. There's only one team in the whole division that is AV7. And actually, no, there are no teams in the division that are AG7, because the two elf teams are Dark Elf and High Elf.
Mm-hmm. So just the Witch Elf and the Catcher, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, one thing I have to say about this team is that he has a minus AG Warrior, which no one would care about, and a Rotter that is minus AG. I would think I would probably toss that.
Yeah, I'll say this. His team is looking a little battered right off the bat. But he does have his 3 rerolls, and so that's why his TV's getting up there, even though he doesn't have a ton of skills yet. That's one thing about Nurgle is their TV grows pretty fast once you start spending money on those rerolls. They're 70,000 a pop. So that's why he hasn't replaced that yet. But now he's sitting on 140,000. I think probably because he might have had a buy, or he might be coming up on a buy. So yeah, you're totally right to consider swapping out that Rotter. Having that third agility is nice.
Pestigore too, that you can swap it for.
Yeah. I do like having 4 Rotters. And maybe he just expands his bench to 13 players a little early. I would actually personally probably wait on the Pestigore. Even though they're superior to the Rotters, you just don't want to bloat your team too much. And it's an extra, basically it's double the value of a Rotter to get another Pestigore.
Well, I mean, I just played him like 2 weeks ago. I had the buy the previous week. And really one of the problems he runs into is he's got very good skills, and his Chaos Warriors are excellent, but moving the ball becomes a problem and he gets bogged down. So I can see why he might want to emphasize Pestigores and getting a little more dynamic action going there.
Very true. A very common problem with Nurgle.
In terms of the whole division, he also got sort of unlucky. If you look at his play history, the reason he doesn't have any wins is because he hasn't played any of his conceded matches as Nurgle. All of them are near the end.
Oh,
but
that is unfortunate.
But if you look closely, he's sort of improving. Like all of it, he didn't win any of his early matches, but his last 2 matches were both draws. So I expect him to be starting to take games by the end of the season.
Am I the only one that notices the game against the murder fuckers?
What?
He 3-0'd a team called the Murder Fuckers, and I do not know them from this league.
I think that's a friendly spin, just to show someone it.
Oh, look at that.
Awesome. All right, so Pandemonium
So-
Burgers took the first game 1-0, lost 1-0 to Necronomic Newbies. Skinky Island Boys, who are doing really well, 2-1, so that was actually pretty close. Hanau Brown Drow was draws 0-0. The Secret of My Success got a 1-0 victory. Draw against
Yeah.
Cash Crew Part 2, 2-2. That's a high scoring game for a Nurgle game. And then Dracwald Day Laborers 1-1.
I had to dodge out of his Beast of Nurgle to get that one, by the way.
That's always unpleasant against tentacles.
Yeah, it took a reroll, and he was not thrilled about it.
Any other last comments on this? Let's, I guess, briefly talk about where we want to see him go. Any thoughts about the team development moving forward?
2 touchdowns on those Pestigors and 2 level
Yeah.
ups. That's going to be starting to be huge. Getting early block and making them nice little blitzers.
Really just needs to funnel points into the Pestigors, I think. I think his Chaos Warrior is doing great.
I will say skip block, go Mighty Blow. Just make a pure killer. Mighty Blow, tackle, piling on, and then block. If you're going to... I mean, you've got your 3 rerolls now, and you've got block on most your Chaos Warriors. So make a real true killer, and that one will get SPP all on his own. And then you can focus on getting the touchdowns to other people.
That is the move that would make me cry the most, so it's probably the right one.
It's worth noting that he hasn't gotten a single positive skill up.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're saying like a stat
yeah,
point?
yeah, stat
Yeah,
up.
like it's just bad luck.
No stat
Like
ups,
sooner or later,
and
he's going
actually-
to pop an AG or a strength on something, and that's
Yeah.
going to.
I wouldn't say it's actually the worst bad luck because mostly he's getting the reliability and then having a stat up pop on is pretty great.
Yeah, and we don't know that he maybe didn't get one and just turned it down, or a double as well.
True.
The only double I would honestly take on Nurgle for the first couple levels would be a dodge on a Pestigore, and other than that,
Maybe a leader.
I think we should
I don't
start
like leader
segueing
doubles.
to.
But yep, we'll go on to the next team.
newbies.
So looking back at the leaderboard, I think you said it was Necronomic Newbies. Yep.
Second
they're the
page.
next team.
Top left.
Perfect, and they're at 1050 TV, which is low. We've
Yep.
talked
He
about
lost
how.
a werewolf.
Oh yeah, that's recent.
Ooh.
We've talked about how this team has struggled to get skills. They've kind of been slow out the gate, and Necro games early on are tough until they get those werewolves into great position and get the additional ghouls that they need to really be mobile. So losing that werewolf, that would have been probably the last match, and he also is super cash poor, so it's going to be a while before he gets that werewolf replaced. Watching his play, I didn't see anything that was atrocious. Have either of you guys played him?
I have.
Yeah,
I think that was like my first game, so I need to try to actually remember what happened.
So
Well,
you didn't get any spins in. You won 2-0.
mhm. And I killed the flesh golem as well. He's been having trouble holding onto his position
Oh,
with Shroud.
jeez.
That's part of the reason he doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regen
He's had-
is fickle.
he's had real bad luck with injuries in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
I see the-
I mean, I played him maybe 3 weeks ago, might be 4, and he played real well. And he had he had shots to win the game, but I was getting removals, and he didn't have the skills to kind of compensate for it.
And you can tell he's not getting removals either. I mean,
Mhm.
most of his SPPs, MVPs, and a couple touchdowns. So,
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got one thing to say on this. Looking back at his previous matches, whenever he normally loses, he doesn't score. So that's just not funneling SPP a lot in those matchups.
Yep.
Mhm.
He's another coach that also didn't get a lot of the buys early.
Yeah.
So that I think he's got 1 buy left or 2 buys left. Oh no, actually, he's got at least 2 buys left. So that will help him out, get him some cash he needs, and after you get your werewolf back, you know. The thing with Necro is they're a fouling team, and for new coaches, I don't think they like to pull the trigger on the foul. I didn't see him foul particularly well. Do you guys recall if he fouled you?
He didn't foul too much against me, but he fouled like crazy against Hanau Brown Drow because I watched that game earlier today. and he just went total ham on those elves.
And the fact that they only beat him by 1 in that instance tells me that that's kind of the right direction for him. So, yeah,
I think he had a dirty player line or zombie when he played me. Or I might be misremembering.
Well, he killed at least one of the Dark Elves too, so we'll have to take a look at that.
But yeah, coming in, I mean, this is my first season in REBBL, and I've played in other leagues, and they're generally pretty foul shy. So coming in, it is an adjustment. I think if you're not used to that play style, and it's I have no problem with the play style, but you have to like change your mindset a little bit and actually look to set up those fouls.
You shouldn't.
I think he's getting his groove. Yeah.
You shouldn't pile on to every opportunity, as I painfully learned last week. Even high elves can step on your face and niggle your orc.
So I think we should start segueing to the Drakewell Day Laborers in the 9th spot on the leaderboard with a 1-4-2 record. So he really likes those ties.
And Moniker's another one that's active in Discord, which we always love to see.
Yeah.
He's played. If you go back and look through his games, he's played really good games and just gotten stuck with ties over and over and over again. He tied Skinky Island Boys. He's the only non-win they got.
Yeah. I watched his game against Dimension C137, and that was an interesting game as well, where he also ended up with a tie. And really, I mean, the injuries on that one were pretty one-sided too, and he still pulled out the tie.
Yeah. It was
that one he actually outbroke the undead team, but they got a quick score early on, and he just wasn't able to get 2 back.
Now, I'm not sure if this is just me, or do you guys like taking block and tackle on your thrower as your first 2 skills?
So that's a different approach. Basically, he just got an extra blitzer out of it.
Yeah.
That's just a little bit slower. I felt like he was probably doing that to counter the skinks. Like, partway through the season, you identify your threat. You figure out who's the team to beat, and you kind of build towards that, or at least that's how I do. And I kind of feel like that's what Moniker's doing here, is that, hey, I got a skill up. Yeah, it's not ideal, but I need tackle. And, if he didn't get levels on those other blitzers, or better yet, he got that agi up. And so he figures, okay, I'll take the agi up, but I need to get tackle on something else.
Following that logic, I think that makes a certain amount of sense. In this division, you don't need a lot of tackle, but you need at least a little bit of it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, the division's really bashy too.
Yeah.
So he had to build this team to be able to survive and at least accomplish basic things on the field without getting removed constantly. So he's treating that thrower like basically like you said, like a blitzer or an extra lineman.
And I will say the armor bust. Do you keep the piece, or is he dead?
I keep it, man. He's going to need it for right now, and especially on the cusp of a level up. That might be promising.
I talked to him. He's going to ride the snake on this one.
Yeah. He's got the money to replace, but you're right. He's very close to leveling, and you never know. Maybe he gets a strength up, and that really improves his survivability. Or
I don't know. I would think that decreases it.
Yeah, I guess that makes him a bigger target, but it's harder to
I would probably fire him, but I haven't looked at who he's playing next. He's already played against me, so
he's played on a lot of the bashy teams already.
Yeah, if he's already passed the full murder teams, then he might be fine keeping it.
He's got me next.
Yep. One thing I'd like to see in this team more is just a second catcher, mostly because I like more scoring threats.
His current catcher has a wrestle as well, so having a catcher without wrestle with block instead of wrestle would be good.
Yeah, with the catchers, I'm always careful to level them up a couple times before I get more of them. But your mileage may vary.
Yep.
Harold's going to be a dope piece.
Looking at, let me just briefly look back at his history here. As we said, a lot of draws. He did get a win. I think Havoc's Henchman, that win was actually against the team, not a surrender. And then a loss to Three Mountains. And that's a bye win and a draw.
Yeah, the first concede for Havoc's Henchman should be the week before last.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and then move on to Pandemonium Murders.
Let's go. Chaos Team, I know these.
I played these guys this week.
I think I have them next week.
There they are.
I'll try to soften them up
The
for you.
teal with a burning ham.
Another guy who takes Trunkhead's advice of putting information in there. Always good. Now,
His development is a bit rougher, and I think he's taken some losses, or his player losses as well.
this honestly looks like an early Chaos Team with no spins.
Yeah,
It was spinless.
it's always
So,
a disadvantage.
one thing I have to say is I don't like the extra arms first. I think that should have been sure hands, 2 extra arms, just to make him more reliable and not worries to reroll and not have strip ball hurt you.
I agree with that a lot. The only argument that I've seen made for an extra arm early is for catch or pass plays versus just sure hands, because you can theoretically on a deep kick you have 1 or 2 turns where you can pick up the ball and then move it to safety, but I generally agree with you that sure hands first makes more sense. And maybe you get sure if another piece gets dodged, then you get sure hands on them, and then you just keep this extra arms as a second threat. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. And now it's nibbled, is it, or is that just missed next game?
It's just missed this game.
Okay.
But you say that, but like, who's gonna pick up the ball and hand it off to him, right?
Well, all of them have the same agile 3. And so what I'm saying is, if the kickoff isn't short, you can have somebody else pick it up, and if they fail 1 turn, the enemy team can, if anything, get out of position trying to get back to you.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
And then you have to use your reroll the 2nd turn or the 3rd turn once they're close enough.
Yep. Also, another strategy is to use him as a marking piece and just have him more towards the enemy lines in the back, and you block someone off him and run a handoff to him, and he just zooms up.
Yeah. It's important to have that handoff play threat on a lot of teams, and Chaos doesn't usually have it, so when you do, it's kind of nice. He's got his rerolls, he's got his Apo, everything else there looks to be in place. He's got a coach's assistant and a cheerleader. I'm not a big fan of that, but...
and a really lean TV. At 1,200 with 11 players.
I see a lot of people do that when they are short their 3 rerolls, and I'm okay with that. But as soon as you get your 3rd reroll, go ahead and fire those. That's an extra skill. It could be the difference in you getting a bribe and getting a wizard, depending on what the TV is your opponent's. So that's something I would probably trim, and I would very meticulously count the TV of my opponent before I keep those.
No, or don't do that at all.
I mean, I agree, but I am a notorious min-maxer when it comes to my TV, so...
I think all good coaches should be.
I think we should start moving on to number 7 in the leaderboard, Cash Crew Part 2.
These guys have had tough luck.
Oh, yeah, there they are.
With a TV of 1070 and a roster of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's not too good.
He's kept his good pieces.
He's had some interesting luck. If you look, I mean, he's got several blodge pieces. He's got a strength up, he's got an agi up, and he's got 2 levels already on his ogre.
A lot of loners.
I have to say, he's done pretty good. Like, I don't even mind the loners right now when he has this much.
Yeah, I mean, he has all 4 blitzers. He has his ogre. He could probably do with a thrower or another catcher, but who cares if your linemen are loners?
This was the team I was thinking of. So this is the one that Dimension C137 woke up and just obliterated, and got, I think, 6 Kazas or something like that with a couple deaths. Yep. He's got money though, so he's sitting on 180,000. He's either thinking of blowing a wizard next match, or he needs to just get a couple linemen. Actually, he can get more than a couple. I think he can get 3 linemen.
You can get 3, but it's not really worth blowing all the money off, especially when you're just going to have loners regardless.
I think in this position, I would take a thrower, and that's it. Because, like I said, who cares if your linemen are loners, right?
It's true.
I mean, I'm gonna hate to say it, but it might just be better to buy a lineman that gets an MVP if you have to.
Yeah, yeah. I don't do that because naming, but you're not wrong that it would be a good idea if he got a loaner with MVP. So keep money for that, and then I do like the catcher. I didn't realize he didn't have a catcher left, so you want sure hands. That is a valuable skill. Looking at the match history, so he's played Skinky Island Boys and lost 3-0. We've seen that a couple times now. The Dimension C317 or 137 game, there's the 3-0 again. Looks like he's got a couple admin games already.
He's had all of his buyout games.
Yeah. So the season, I probably is out of. I don't see him going to the playoffs, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop going for development and maybe a couple upsets.
Especially with this kind of team, that's gonna be scary next season.
Yeah, he's not in a bad spot at all. Sitting at 3-1-3. If he keeps his team through next season, there's going to be a lot of fresh roll teams for Legendary Edition that probably would not want to play him.
Yeah.
Well, and when you're in a lower division like this, I think it's great to try to get into the playoffs and run. And know, I know that's a stinging thing for Kasubalu right now, but that having this kind of setup going into the next season and playing in higher divisions, like I think he can compete with a lot of teams.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the secret of my success, coached by...
These guys stink.
Yeah, Rusty Seabutter, of course, our guest. Sitting at 3-2-1 currently.
Yep. So why don't you tell a little bit about your team?
Well, they're gentle boys from the borough of Queens. My goal with orcs is always to try to get block on the black orcs as quickly as possible. I feel pretty good about where they're at. I know I got that niggle on. You guys were talking about that last week on undock games, but I'm just throwing him into the mix, and I'll just ride the snake on him.
Yeah, I mean he's AV9, so it's the trick is getting really knocked down. Where I would be very cautious, and I'll just flat out tell you, keep him away from the enemy team's big guy. When you play against those mummies, which I think you already played against, but
yes, I did.
Or the block.
That's where that niggle came from.
You just want to watch out for the big guys because they're the only ones that are really going to have both Mighty Blow and 2 dice on that black orc. If you can keep them somewhere else in the line or off the line, you'll get a lot more life out of him. But I like the Mighty Blow. Have you considered a Mighty Blow first one for one of these next ones because they are going to be a little bit behind on levels?
I mean, both of them are 1 point away. They've really been sitting there praying for a spare point to come their way. Now I'm going to start. I think I'm going to try to hand off to them in the next couple games just to get there. But once I get block across the board, then I basically do an alternating Mighty Blow block, or I'm sorry, Mighty Blow guard thing. Okay. So that's kind of the way I'm thinking. It's because once you have the 4, you can do a lot of things up front that you couldn't do otherwise.
And how do you feel? Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say was that I like the amount of dodge in here, or blodging with those two, and especially that cage diving you're allowed to do now with the AG4. You're allowed to at least tackle or go in one tackle zone and have a reliable dodge in and hit somebody. So that's really opening up a lot of avenues. And Super Fed, you can go with what you had to say.
Yeah, I'm going full Wolf Rider with this guy.
The trick is the second double, as my Mia Malkova will tell you.
That's easy.
I've been trying to get that second double for the entire time because I got dodge literally the first match on her. She was my first skill up. Yep. And since then, I have not got that second double for diving tackle, and I'm closing in on 71 SPP. So if you can get it, great, but I would probably not recommend building the same way I did with it was tackle, stand firm, and then guard. But I would probably... Oh, good.
No, I was just saying, why not? Why not build that way?
I had to force a lot of touchdowns onto her after a certain point, and I think I would have been better served by putting them onto Blackworks. if I had gone Mighty Blow instead, you can still level up pretty quickly. There's nothing wrong with the tackle. It was the stand firm that was greedy. And then the guard was just essentially necessary at that point because I already had a Blodge stand firm piece with no guard on it, so you kind of need that. Blodge guard is great with stand firm, but it just depends if you have a dedicated killer, which you're kind of working towards with blind camping.
Blind camping's 1 point away. If he can't get a casualty and early in the next game, I'm going to try to force the ball to him because I need to get that the tackle on him to hunt the more dodgy guys coming up later in the schedule.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be like if you have just a turn 8 to yourself, make sure he throws the ball or your Blodge guy throws the ball because they're both sitting at 15. That can do you good.
Oh no, I got I think 5 players sitting at 1 point off.
And you're
level.
so close to just get exploding in the guard area, and once you do, that'll really mess with the other bash teams you've got.
Yeah.
Well, I got these dwarves coming up soon.
Yeah, if you put that off until after week 10, that would be great.
No, I got you on the schedule. You're circled.
I can say from experience, guard wins the dwarf first orc match.
Yep.
Yeah.
He who
So
has
I think
the
it's
more
time
guard
to-
wins.
I'll give you props in a second when we get to your team, man, because you got a lot of guard.
So, just quickly looking at your match history before we move on. Tie against Templar of Aurora, tie against Town Brownjaw. You handled the elves with a pass on each there. Let's see. Who else did you play? Necronomic Newbies 2-0'd, Nurgle FTDs 1-0'd.
That's where I had my Miracle Black Orc pass, was against Necromantic Newbies.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that was a great video.
Yeah, I remember that.
C-130, by the way, or C-137, those guys kicked my ass.
So is that your only loss?
Yes. And I really underestimated them. I looked at their skills and didn't think there was much to worry about. And he didn't have what he has now, and we'll get to him, I guess. But he just put me in a dust.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even say it was a dicing. Like
you guys had equal armor breaks.
Yeah, but he got the ones that counted.
Huh.
And he made the plays when they needed to be played. We had a lot of scrum and a lot of pillow hand shovey match stuff, and the ball would score it out and he'd get it and go.
Nice.
And then I either played catch up or he scored.
Okay, I think it's time to move on to the 5th slot in the leaderboard. Templars of Aurora, coached by Hipster, with a undefeated record of 3-3-0.
And watching the old ones back, I do feel like my praise is a bit high of this team. Partly because I've just been dabbling with High Elves so much. And it was more or less after I watched him play High Elves that I felt like it really clicked for me. He's on the second page.
Yep.
Look at that TV, though. 1580. Jesus.
It is really high.
Well, that's because he has 13 players, and that's not even a full TV.
I was to say he's down. He's missing one.
He was back 1600 before.
Well, he has 2 stat ups and so many doubles.
Oh, that's a plus agi on a catcher too. That's so huge.
Yep.
So that's going to be
Really, he's just
not
got
this season probably.
everything
but
where he wants it.
next season, that's going to be a leap wrestle catcher. That's going to be worse than a war dancer because war dancers just get block. Once it's got wrestle and maybe strip ball or tackle, it is going to be just brutal. The one thing I can call out on him is that second blitzer of his that doesn't have any SBP. You need to feed that guy the ball. Your blitzers need to have skills before your catchers do, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a new blitzer, I think. He retired his old one.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes a little more sense.
It got move busted.
Okay, yeah, then that's definitely worth the firing. You want to have that extra movement, both to chase down pieces, but in plays like I talked about before, where Chaos, fumbles the pickup the first time, or the 1 in 9 on sure hands. If you can get, if you can get between the ball carrier and the front line and kind of block them off from caging, it forces them to make really bad plays, or at least risky plays that you can take advantage of, which I know Hipster's capable of.
Now I have one quick question. Do you agree with the second thrower or no?
100%. You make one, he's got the sure hands one with dodge on it, and if he puts block on it next, that's actually a good piece to actually have in the middle of the fray. And then you make your second thrower, your true thrower with accurate, and maybe leader or some other skill that you're going to kind of keep back or on the side.
And honestly, are you going to play high elves and not throw the ball?
I don't.
Sometimes.
I mean,
Throws the ball a lot.
I throw the ball all the time. Yeah. I mean, well, the biggest thing is not. I mean, you'll do it on offense, of course, because it's 1 in 36 to fail most of the time. But where it's super awesome is when you knock the ball loose with your blitzer. You're able to have a thrower come over with sure hands and pick it up, maybe in 1 or 2 tackle zones, and then lob it out of there to a catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And now the catcher's on the other side of the pitch, and there's literally no way that you can get to them, and they can either run out the clock or score fast, whatever they need to do at that point. And that's where I feel like High Elves just have something that no other team can do.
Yep.
Yeah, and they got too much armor too.
Mm-hmm.
Need to tone that down.
And 3 strength catchers, like, what are they thinking?
I know.
It's literally
Gross.
just the late game elf, because the early game is supposed to be their bad game, and that's not really the case here. Looking at their history, there's a couple 3-0 wins for them. They got their buys, it looks like.
He's really just scoring a lot to get all that SVP, and I like it.
Yeah, even on their draws against 3 Mountains and Drackwall Day Laborers, they're 2-2, so they're not the 1-1 draws. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the way that they play their team defensively, which is really what defines coaches, in my opinion. Everybody can score. You're more likely to score than not. That's why the 2-1 meta exists. But it's the coaches that play great defense that are able to shut out their opponents that are, in my opinion, the best coaches.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about future advancement? I already mentioned the catcher and go on leap, wrestle, and all that jazz, but what do you guys think about the other stuff? Anything crazy? I mean, he's got 2 guard linemen, which is helpful, but obviously they need other skills. Any other thoughts?
Well, I don't think it's contentious to say that he's probably going to take a lot more. He's probably going to continue to take more dodge on everyone, especially in our division, because there's so little dodge. Just no one will be able to stop him.
Yeah.
No.
I want to see the schedule, who he's got coming up.
I would put Sprint on his movement catcher because he's already really good at one turning with it, and he can probably get to the point where he only needs 1 push.
Yeah, that's a good move there for sure.
Now, one thing I wanted to touch up on is that this coach might be one that's playing for next season too, especially with this kind of team. So what he's going to want to do is he's going to want to just have some general development and not go specific for this division. So maybe looking around at the other contenders, seeing what they have, and then trying to plan for going up.
But I'm looking at his schedule, and he does have a chance to really shake things up. So the Skinky Island boys do still have to play this team, and they do have a couple other matches ahead of them. And if the Skinky Island boys do take 2 losses,
It's still anyone's game.
I do feel like there is a chance, because this team hasn't even lost 1 game yet. So they're really at, what is that, 15 points? No, 12 points. Compared to, yeah.
And since you mentioned it, I think this is one of the teams that has the best chances of taking a game off of the Skinks.
Yeah. So I don't want to rule them out yet. I say anyone 5th and up at this point. Maybe even, I mean, Rusty Sea Butter, maybe even there's a chance that you could get in there if it was to really just flip on the Lizard team, which is impossible. We'll talk about that later. But I would say probably 6th and up. Definitely 5th and up have a chance.
Yep. No, I wasn't trying to say anything bad about this coach. I was more just saying.
No, as far as the development, I know where you're going. Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts before we move on to the Undead team?
No, I think that's just a really solid team that's getting up really high, and they're going to get a lot of wizards on them. They should have some fun.
And honestly, I can't say enough. If you are curious at all about how to play High Elves when they lack skills, watch his games.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to do it. So let's go ahead and move on to Dimension C137. And for those of you that don't know, this is totally a Rick and Morty thing.
Yep. I was looking in chat, and apparently a lot of people didn't know.
Right. I knew that because of his player names, and that's the only reason I knew that.
Yeah.
I'm a little sad that he fired the other linemen too because they were great. I'm hoping he replaces them with the same names.
Yeah.
It's always nice to see a cohesive naming scheme all the way down.
Yeah, and that lets you know that they're not going to be hiring any loners. I'm curious because this is an actual undead team if he's going to keep any players that he kills, like any of his trophies, or if he's going to fire those two.
I don't know. I really like trophies. They're great.
I'm a fan of the trophies too. Look at this freaking team.
Yeah,
the level ups
gross.
that have just happened on the mummies. These are recent additions. Like I would say that they were even slow to develop. He had the plus Agi White from the start, but then he got guard on a ghoul. He's got the strength up mummy, and then a blodge mummy.
This is great. I
yeah,
like this.
so this is terrifying.
I already played him. I played him before he had this mummy and this. He had the Agi, but he wasn't nearly as scary.
This is my last game of the season.
So that actually, this could decide a playoff spot in that last game.
So one thing I have to say though,
He's played against the Skinks, but not any of the elf teams. So
Well, and the Skinks were his first game, right? So he didn't have tackle or anything that would be really honestly helpful. So I wouldn't really fault that match. Oh,
But,
man.
like-
He's going to need to get some tackle.
Yeah. Well, I think
Got a lot of elf and
we've talked a lot about that. Both his whites are ready to level, and I'm sure one of them is going to get tackle. And then that wrestle ghoul is either getting tackle or strip ball next, depending on, I'm sure, what he's playing. So he's got 2 DP lines, and he's still got another bye week. So this could get even worse. But pretty much all of this disgustingness happened when he got his 3 bye weeks in a row.
this guy fouls, by the way. For those of you who coming up against him, don't get caught sleeping.
the only thing I have to say that's bad is his dirty players are getting a lot of SPP.
Yeah. That sucks. That part of it sucks. I mean, that's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
3 MVP.
I don't
6
love that,
MVPs on his.
I think it's
linemen.
the concedes that are doing it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
Yep. Oh well. Yeah. So history-wise, we kind of talked about that. So the one loss was to the Skinky Island boys, who are currently in first. And then everything else has either been a tie or a very one-sided win, but he's also got his bye weeks. So, yeah.
Yeah, like unless he's gonna shoot up to 3rd place on the next week for sure. He might shoot up to 2nd if it's a draw between myself and Phaedrus. So make no mistake, he's at the top.
What do you guys think? I mean, direction-wise, other than tackle, anything else that stands out to you as a direction to go? He's got that plus Agi White. Do you do anything different with it? Do you make anything crazy? I mean, I would. He doesn't have sure hands on anything, so that's something that jumps out to me. Maybe you put that on a ghoul.
Yeah, I'm thinking just the regular blodging ghoul is where he wants that sure hands at, and also that white is probably just gonna have to hope for devils to get dodge.
I might give that white strong arm.
I was hoping that you would say that because that's exactly what I was thinking. If you do strong arm on that white, that gives you so many options to play, kind of like what I was just talking about with the high elves, where you're going to have one piece that's in the middle of the fight that when the ball gets knocked loose you can pick up and throw to somebody else, because with strong arm he's able to 2+ in a tackle zone, a short pass, and that is actually a really strong play.
So are you saying if he got doubles, would you want to get accurate?
If you already had strong arm, maybe. Although I would probably do pass before I would do accurate, if he's going to do the white quarterback.
That's fair enough. But
I've seen it in Champ Ladder. I actually saw an undead team that had a white quarterback. But
I mean, you keep rolling doubles on it. Why not, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely my one tangent because I keep like literally from the first because he had it at the start of the season. I've been secretly wishing he would do that all along because it's something that you just never see. A strength access player that goes the throwing route. All right, looking back at the list, who's next?
We have 3 mountains.
Aha,
Go.
our dwarf coach.
Dwarfs.
Well, this team looks pretty familiar.
We all
So
love the
go on
grab.
and explain everything.
So I have a whole lot of guard and not a lot of mighty blow. So I basically hit KOs and nothing else.
Sounds good. But the question is death roller or no?
I love the death roller, but it is not a good choice on a dwarf team. Ideally,
I agree.
my dream match would be being able to induce a mercenary death roller, but the thing is so freaking expensive, I just can't do it. Like, if the Nuffle altar actually affected the mercenaries, that'd be perfect, but it doesn't. So I'm sort of like, it's just never going to happen. If I get to playoffs, that's my only chance of getting that death roller.
Yeah, I think that there's a TV mark where you can get to where you can make the case for it, but before you get to really, and I would say even own the level of TV like 1800, and if you're facing other like 1800 chaos teams, that's where it has a good value in my opinion. But before that point, if you don't have the bribe stadium, if you don't have a good strong defensive team without it, I would not rely on it.
No.
I just think you should never use one.
You know, I have to say, the one thing I really like about your team is guard before mighty blow. On most players.
Well,
You have
my motto is, as it were, is that mighty blow develops players, guard wins games. And that is certainly the case for dwarves, where I don't have any strength without guard. Like, if I was playing orcs or undead, it would be a different matter because I'd have high strength pieces. But with dwarves especially, you need guard.
Yep, all because of the 3 strength and no leveraging anywhere until you get setups.
You're basically a big amoeba that just wraps around the opposing team, so you need to be able to hold the line and get dice, advantage in terms of 1 die versus 2 die.
And you're gonna have to throw 1 dice no matter what. The mighty blow just makes the 1 dice hurt them more when it works out. The guard makes it to where you don't have to throw it as often, and that is what gives you that edge to win. And as an orc coach, I completely agree with guard first. I only have 3 mighty blow pieces, which is counting a troll, so I can definitely relate. Tell me about the grab. That's the one thing that stands out to me.
It's hot.
Well, grab is good for a lot of things. There's the obvious things like surfing and one-turning. There's the less obvious things like just setting up hitting people. But I think it's actually really important for helping to keep my players in position. Because dwarves are super slow, right? They're probably the slowest, well, arguably the slowest team in the game. I think that's a pretty strong argument, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wouldn't really argue against that.
So it's so important that you have excellent positioning with them. And guard is, but no, we're talking about grab. Grab is an excellent tool for helping maintain that position. I mean, usually the obvious choice is to go for stand firm, which, I mean, taking stand firm after you already have your other essential skills is a good idea, but stand firm only makes sure you're in the right place. It doesn't help you if your opponent is standing where you don't want them to be.
Well, and with the 2 troll slayers too, it gives you 3 pieces that are able to kind of control the field and move people around. And when you're like a creeping team like the dwarves are, that's a big deal.
Indeed.
It's very sound. I like it.
Plus it lets you ignore sidestep, so that's amazing.
Have
We
you
don't have a
faced
lot of that,
any
though.
sidestep?
Perhaps we don't have a lot of it, but
I guess the
but
skinks would.
that's the
but
sort
yeah.
of thing that catches players off guard a lot because usually they don't expect it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the same thing for diving tackle. You don't see it very often, so it's easy for someone to not expect you to have it and then make a misplay because they don't realize what it's doing.
Yeah, I would say even sidestep's one of those skills because you just don't see it often enough, and when you forget and hit them the wrong way, it punishes you. But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Let's take a look at your history.
Wait, we got to talk about Hell's Gate. He's the only other bounty player in REL 5. Other than my
Blodge
guy,
movement. I mean, there's nothing to
So-
dislike there.
I mean, yeah, 7 movement, blodge, dwarf.
Only thing that makes him better is his strength up at this point.
Or an agility up. That'd be pretty great. Should put an even bigger target on him.
Yeah, I mean the agility's nice because it makes pickups and dodges a little easier.
Mhm.
But I mean, like, who put on that bounty? Who could do such a thing?
But our bounty czar, which is what you're going to be referred to from now on.
Pretty much. I like the minigame. It lets people kill who I want to kill.
Yeah. I
So-
need to talk to you actually about that. Did I kill? You had a bounty on a dwarf on Own's team on a Longbeard, right?
Crumley.
That's not the one I killed. I think I killed
Darn.
Ares again. I didn't kill anyone actually. Never mind. There's no deaths. I was fouling somebody and I wanted to make sure I was fouling the right piece. But anyway, moving on. The match history for Three Mountains. You didn't have any losses, right? I didn't think so.
My only loss was against the Skinky Island boys.
Oh right, that was just this last.
I
week.
have scored twice in literally every game.
That's
pretty good.
Strong for dwarves.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of your games, and it's really surprising how effectively you do like a 3-turn touchdown. People will score and think you don't have time, and you get that 3 or 4 turn touchdown in there.
That Barrack MVP's got to feel great.
Which MVP?
Barrack, the star player.
Oh yeah, that totally happened, man.
You got 13
I
armor
mean-
breaks, huh? And it still just wasn't.
I mean, you know what though? He is the only player on my team who actually inflicted a casualty with a foul. So, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, he earned it.
Oh god, 13 armor breaks against lizards and no real removals. That's rough.
There were 2 casualties. One of them was a surf. The other one was a foul with Varric.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's rough. I mean, that's honestly probably what I would call bad dice. And then he did some catch handoffs. It looks like to get the fast
He got
scores.
two blitzes as as
Oh
that
my
was a-
god.
That was a really harsh game.
Whew, that's a tilter. That's a tilter.
But to his credit, he really took advantage of every misplay I made.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't happen often, but I really came out of that game going, I wish I had played better because I feel like I got outplayed there.
So I hate to cut you away from your team, but I think it's time to move on to the next person of
Yeah.
How Now Brown Drow by Phaedrus.
Yes. And this is,
So
I think,
unfortunately,
Trunkhead's
you're-
favorite team. And we are going to talk playoffs here in a moment, but the Dark Elves are growing quickly with team value. They're skilling up, but not as fast as Hipster as an elf team. But they've got some already really impressive players. The one, of course, that jumps out is the Agi 5 Leap. That's going to be brutal. A very early diving tackle on one piece instead of regular tackle, which to me is interesting because it slows down your leveling quite a bit because you're just going to mark with that piece. You're not going to blitz with that piece. So I don't know how I feel about that one.
I think it'll help a lot later on
yeah,
because he hasn't played against the other agility teams.
correct. Yeah, he hasn't played the High Elves or I think he's played a couple of the humans, but yeah. it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. He's got both his Witch Elves, but he doesn't have his 4th Blitzer. Either you or any of you guys Dark Elf coaches?
The Blitzer died in his last game.
That explains the gap. Okay. That makes sense. So he's going to have to save up for that one. 2 runners. I don't see that ever.
Yep. Oh, that kick guard, though. That's no bueno.
I mean, you don't usually put your guard on the line to start on defensive drives, so it's not the worst. But it definitely is going to be a while before he sees the 3rd level.
Yeah, it's more just you don't have the block needed with guard if you want to keep it up a lot, just to keep his life expectancy up. That's the only problem I have with it.
Yeah, fair enough. Anything else stand out to you guys? I mean, dodge standard. That's going to be normal. Wrestle sidestep. So if you do make the mistake of blocking the sidestep piece near the cage, and now you've got to wrestle on the ball carrier, that sucks. Is that just missing next game?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, just miss next game.
I will say, even without all the skill ups you would expect this deep, like, he plays a really mean defense.
Yeah.
I think he leads the league or leads the division right now. But he's super tactically sound.
I was watching his last game earlier tonight, actually, because I'm playing him this week, and he is incredibly aggressive on defense, and it really pays off for him.
Well, he uses that blitzer, the Agi one, really, really well.
Wow, you weren't kidding. He's only let up 2 touchdowns the entire season.
Yeah, who's got one of those? And it took some bullshit. It took some green elfy bullshit to get that one touchdown against him. Like, I basically had to run up the sideline with a troll and a black orc.
The only thing that really jumps out to me is the tie against Nurgle FTDs.
Yeah.
But they did the Nurgle Warrior was doing, or not Nurgle Warrior, Beast and Nurgle was doing work.
Yeah, they're a good tie team, the Nurgle team, though. Like, he doesn't play
Disturbing
bad.
presence, I guess, is probably a thing, too.
Yeah.
During that. No handoffs, no passes. So maybe that's what it was, but that does just give me a little bit of pause. It'll be interesting to see how he ends up at the end of this season.
Also, the Nurgle FTDs did inflict 3 KOs and 2 injuries. And it's probably just a numbers game at that point.
On that topic, actually, he has 13 players, 14 before he lost his blitzer. I'm pretty sure the reason he has so many players is because he has been taking like miss next games every single game.
Yeah. I mean, to me that's bloaty, really bloaty. I never want to run more than 13, and that's 13 on a team that fouls. So he's probably missing out on some inducements. Although some of the teams, I mean, I will say there's a wide disparity of TV in this division. You've got the necromantic newbies that are sitting at just above 1,000, and then you've got hipsters, high elves of high TV with over 500 TV more than the necromantic newbies. So yeah, that's quite the disparity. And this team is before last game would have been sitting at around the high end at 1,500, but after that now yeah, it's interesting. I just think that there's probably too many players here for my taste.
Of course, having said that, at least in the short term, I've done the math, and he is getting absolutely nothing in his inducements if he fires players right now.
No, my point is if he didn't hire so many extra pieces, he could have already rebought the blitzer, and now he's going to be playing down a blitzer.
I don't think he has hired extra players, though, is the thing. I think he started off with linemen, and he just kept hiring more blitzers and witch elves, and didn't fire the linemen.
He's got 2 runners. He wouldn't have started with 2 runners. They're AV7.
He wouldn't have started with 2 witch elves and 4 blitzers either.
No, you can't. No, I know that. I know you have to get those pieces later, but maybe he just hasn't fired them and they just have the deaths. But I feel like the 2 runners is greedy or even unnecessary.
Man. Yeah, I kind of actually like the extra bench on here because eventually you're going to get bashed pretty good and TV's going to be trimmed and he's still going to have a team and bench to come up on the field.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other thoughts on this team?
No, it's just really solid.
And coached by a great coach.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy too. He's
Yeah.
chatty.
Mhm.
And you don't get that very often. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
All right. First place. Is it Wave or Weave or how are you guys saying his name?
I say it Wave. We
To
just
me,
said it different ways.
To me, it's Wave. I'm going to go with Wave. But Skinky Island Boys, which is also a great team name.
Yeah.
I'm going with Weave because I'm going to pull it out.
1,500 TV lizards, again at the high end of the TV. When you look at where that TV is located, you've got one bloaty skink. You've got a buttload of block, including a bloxigor. And that's it. And that's all it takes to make a bloaty lizard team with your 3 rerolls. So
That's a lot of block on sources.
Yeah, he has way too many skinks, but he hasn't lost a game yet. So who am I to criticize him?
Again, he's against the high TV teams is 1,500. He's not going to get punished for it. If there was a coach that was struggling with injuries and things like that, and sitting at lower TV, but that was experienced and knew how to play with inducements, he could be poised to have an upset. I just don't know, looking at the lower TV teams, if any of those are capable of that upset. Possibly, let's see, who has he played?
Necromantic Newbies might.
Yeah, Necromantic Newbies, they might. He has already
Might kill the
played
Skinks.
Pandemonium Burgers, so it's not going to be them to do it.
Necromantic
Everybody-
newbies. My last greatest hope before the elves get to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
He's really not running into a lot of tackle, which is
Nurgle team
keeping
doesn't
those
get it
Skinks
for a
alive.
while. Obviously, the Undead team's fresh in that sense, so they didn't have anything.
You guys, with all that tackle, you couldn't have killed some more of these skinks.
Well,
I tried.
the skinks are not the problem. I mean,
I tried so hard.
in the game, sure, you want to try and kill the skinks to eliminate the ball carriers, but long term viability for this team, the only way this team doesn't make the playoffs is if the Saurus start going down.
Right.
And actually, he has so many skinks that it's not viable to target his skinks because you're not going to kill all of his skinks.
I think that he knows that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to kill Crash.
Is he really a game maker? In my opinion,
Well, I mean, if you watch his games, he really puts the ball in his hands, and he really
no.
relies.
That's why he's got
He
42
did-
SPP on him. But
He did actually win against me because of Crash. He one-turned with that skink.
he's
If
got
you
a
take
nine-
Crash off the field, he's got a very different scenario. Other
Yeah.
than obviously, Sprint's still amazing.
I mean, say Trent with the movement up. I mean, that's who I focus. But I personally see skinks as Skittles that just give you experience for punching them once or twice and they're gone. And so I have my Tackle Mighty Blow piling on piece, and all he does every time I play lizards is just kill him.
But you got to have that attack.
You need to foul the Saurus. That's all it takes.
Yes.
If you get rid of 2 Saurus for like permanent injuries, which means they're gone for a game and whatever the injury is and potentially fired, it screws up the lizard team so much. I mean, he's sitting on 1,300, so he's ready for at least 1 Saurus to go down. So really we need 2 or 3 to go down to have any kind of consequence here. But
Ideally, the Crocs being one of them.
Or just the Crocs dying would be nice.
Mhm.
yeah,
Now I have to
Anyone
say
wants to
is
do that.
if you just kill his developed Saurus, that's going to be taken away a lot now because of the other teams just coming up, and they'd be able to beat a lizard team, I would bet, without 2 more block pieces.
Yeah, I mean, the longer it goes, obviously, the more this team's going to steamroll. But you look at teams like in other divisions that are lizards, they really struggle when they start losing Saurus. And until that happens, I don't see anything that's going to slow him down.
Mhm.
Well, and Flint and Spritz are so close to the next level. It's really not going to take much for those two to start adding Mighty Blow and Guard to the mix.
Yep.
Or even something crazy like Break Tackle.
Looking at his upcoming matches, if he doesn't get a tackle Saurus, I think there's going to be an opportunity there with the elves.
Mhm.
But But yeah, I mean, he's got a prehensile tail. He doesn't have any diving tackle skinks yet, so he's probably just been thinking, thinking about the bash teams that he was up against. But yeah, it's a strong team. It's a very strong team.
Now, one thing I have to say from now is he does have a admin team to go against.
He does, yeah.
So that's just a free win he's going to get and extra money. So he's going to be right at the top of it, maybe spending it on a stadium upgrade.
6-1-0. Very, very strong with the next highest team at 4-2-0.
Yep.
So let's quickly look at the schedule. And while we're looking at the schedule, we're going to do playoff picks. Which, while I said, top 5 or 6 are still options, with a 2-game lead, it's hard to say that they're not heavy favorites. So in the coming weeks, let's see, games that really stand out to me for the rest of the season that'll be defining ones. Nothing special, honestly, in week 8. Cash Crew's got Templars of Aurora. Yeah, I mean, Drackwell Day Laborers and The Secret of My Success, that could be a contentious game.
Week 10, there's Templars of Aurora versus Skinky Island Boys.
That'll be
That's
one to
what
watch.
I'm see.
That'll be definitely one to watch. The Necronomic Newbies play them week 9, but again, I just don't know that that coach has enough experience with inducements to make. I mean, a 500 inducement is a lot, and no, you don't want Morgan Thorne.
What other stars do they get?
Necro, Wilhelm Cheney or whatever his name is. Seeing an extra werewolf, which would be good for him since he's already down one. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not super confident in the 500 inducements making a big enough difference there. But you never know. Nuffle can have his way.
So do you want to hear everyone's picks?
I'm just quickly again looking. So you said week 10. There's that one. What about How Now Brown Drow? What do they have? Any big?
They're
ones?
playing me this week.
Okay, that's a big one.
That's a good one.
And then they play week 11 against Skinky Island Boys, so they do have a chance to make their name felt. And week 12, it's another admin win for Skinky Island Boys. And then the Elf Bowl, week 13, Templars of Aurora versus How Now Brown Drow. Even if that's not deciding who goes to the playoffs, that's going to be a really good game between two elf teams. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then Three Mountains versus Dimension C 137. So you'll have your Elf Bowl and you'll have your Bash Bowl.
My last 2 weeks are the Nurgle and that. So that'll be interesting.
Just hope the Nurgle doesn't soften up your shell.
I can only hope.
All right, playoff picks, guys. So we have a heavy favorite, as we know, with Wave and his Skinky Island Boys. But is there anyone that wants to be bold and call the upset?
I'm calling Templars of Aurora takes it all.
Ooh, okay, 5th place.
Well, I think I'm supposed to pick myself, right?
Sure.
But no, actually, I think the ones of the best shot are Head Out Brown Drow. If they beat me, for sure, because I think they will take a game off of the Skinks. But even if I do win against them, they will only have one loss. If the Skinks lose to both of the elf teams, Head Out Brown Drow will still be sitting pretty.
That's very fair.
That's true enough.
Especially with the tiebreakers. And at this point, they have to lose to have anything serious, in my opinion. If they get a couple draws against those elves, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, like if they got a lot of draws, but like they would need to get a draw on every one of their remaining matches.
And that's not going to happen because they have 2 admins. So
I mean every one of their remaining non-admin.
Even
matches.
then, I think
that would be the equivalent of 1 loss. So, that wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
That would be maybe enough for me if I have a perfect season after this.
Yeah, it's tough. I'd like to say Dimension C
And
137
and
just because I've watched them play, but they lost 3-0 to the Skinky Island boys, so it's really tough for me to say that it turns out that way. I mean, because really, in order for them to get there after losing to the Skinky Island boys, it would mean that the High Elves and the Dark Elves beat the Skinky Island boys, but then they themselves lost other games to other people. So, yeah, it's got to. In my mind, it's probably How Now Brown Drow or Skinky Island boys.
yeah, like I have a chance, but honestly, I think I'm like a distant third between those two.
You're
Then
right though. This week determines that for sure. Like it determines who has second by a long shot.
Then I kind of wish Dimensions C had played against the Skinks later, because I think they're going to be like the king of upsets.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they still have to play the elves, so they could literally screw How Now Brown Drow and Templars of Aurora.
They could screw me as well.
Even if Skinky Island Boys loses 2 games. Dimension C137 could just equalize with beating all of the other top teams.
If I do have that perfect division, they could screw me as well.
Yeah.
Like,
no, they could literally make it so Skinky Island Boys still go to the playoffs even if they lose 2 games.
Dimension C has every team in the high half of this bracket except for the one in first place, and it's just why?
That is some crazy scheduling, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, that's actually really interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I think we got a good idea of the playoffs. We've taken a look at all of the teams. Thank you so much, everyone, for helping out. Iron Master, always a pleasure.
It's always good to be here.
And then Chaos Sabulu and Rusty Seabutter, of course. Thank you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck with the rest of the season, both of you. Feel free to stomp away at the opposing players and do what damage you can in REL fashion.
I mean, I have to have at least one game at some point where I roll something other than a KO, right?
You're due. That's what that means. You're due.
No, it's a really good division with a lot of really good fun coaches. Like even further down the list, I think everybody's been really fun to play with, and there haven't been any weak teams.
And that's honestly what I love about the REBBL. There's so many good coaches that we're in Division 5 of 7, and we're with a bunch of fresh roll teams. And honestly, of the top 6 teams, any of you guys could get to the playoffs, and any of you guys in the playoffs could do some serious damage. It's fresh roll teams typically that win the Super Bowl, last year being one of the exceptions, but
I believe that's the only exception.
Is it? Jeez, that's even worse. I thought one of Sand Dunes win was not on a fresh team, but yeah, yeah, it's good to see great Blood Bowl played by friendly guys that are just kicking butt. So thanks for joining me again, everybody, and we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. You guys have a good evening and good luck.
Yeah, peace to my groons.
Good night.